right, hello everyone. Cole Watkins here from Aggressor Adventures. Welcome to our first ever Zoom presentation series. Please bear with us as we are learning this software here with you guys. We still have more people coming in. Looks like we have 114 others. We're gonna go ahead and start. So I'd like to give you guys a quick rundown of how this is gonna work. All viewers are going to stay muted, and your cameras, we'd like you guys to keep your cameras off just to prevent any distractions for the presenter. You may ask questions throughout the presentation using the chat box. The chat box button is found at the bottom of this screen. I will then read the chat box, read questions periodically to ask Captain Amanda. We will not be able to answer all questions, of course. And again, the chat box, hover over your screen and you will see the little button that says chat, and the chat goes directly to me. And yeah, we'll get it going, and hopefully this goes nice and smooth. So with further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Captain Amanda from the Turks Caicos Aggressor 2.
Hi folks, welcome to our first Zoom into Adventure meeting. I'm Amanda Smith. I'm the captain of the Turks Caicos Aggressor. I've been captain of the Turks Caicos Aggressor now for the last 12 years. I've actually been working on the Aggressor for 15 years, initially starting as a very green instructor with just 300 dives under my belt. I have quite a few more now. And had no idea at that point when I came on as a new instructor that I would ultimately end up being the captain of the boat. So that was more of a surprise to me than anyone else, I think. So I'm from England originally, born just outside of London, and moved to the south coast of England, which is where most of my family is from. My mum and my brother and his wife are in Dorset. My father is in Somerset. My brother and his wife also have a young one, which is Lola, which is our little French bulldog. And then on my husband's side, the family are out in Surrey. So his mum, his dad, his sister and brother-in-law live there. And also their two children, Lauren and Joshua. I want to give them a shout out. Lauren learned to dive in 2018 in England. And has been out to dive with us in the Turks and Caicos. So just want to say a little hello to them because I'm sure they're all watching. Anyway, so I decided, I worked in insurance for about 15 years. At that point, had always thought, oh, it'd be a nice idea to scuba dive. Didn't get around to it until I went on vacation with my mum to Turkey in the year 2000. And when I was there, tried it, and that was it, game over. From that point onwards, I came straight back to England, went and spent some time learning and doing all my professional qualifications in the UK. My thought was, if I could dive in the UK, then I can teach anywhere. So that was the plan. Now, after I had spent a couple of years doing all my training, and I also worked for that dive shop in the south of England, for a year, I decided that I could not bear another winter teaching in the UK. So I decided to come somewhere a little bit warmer. And I ended up in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Didn't know where it was when I first applied for the job. And for a little while afterwards, most of my friends thought I was living in Turkey. So yes, eventually we managed to sort out the geography there. I decided once I had done that, I came and worked out in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I fell in love with it immediately. My intention originally was to spend some time traveling around the world and diving everywhere. But I fell in love with the island and decided to stay, and that was 15 years ago. So then in 2007, I did my captain's license and took over as captain in the end of 2008. So I am married. I am married to the engineer on the boat, Rob. So we don't have any children, but we have a very, very happy life working here on the boat in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So that's enough about me. I'd like to tell you a little about the destination that I have grown to love. Okay, so the Turks and Caicos Islands, they are 577 miles just southeast of Miami. So we're not too far from mainland US. Very easily accessible, and they are beautiful islands, and they are known, or their motto is beautiful by nature. And that is very much borne out with the wildlife you see on land, and also with the wildlife that we enjoy underwater. So our yacht, my home, the Turks and Caicos Aggressor 2, she is 120 feet in length. She has a 24-foot beam and a 6.5-foot draft. Now it's actually quite shallow around some of the areas in Turks and Caicos, so we do find that we are limited by tide coming in and out of the marina. We're actually based out of Providenciales, which is one of the northeasterly islands of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and the one that is the most densely populated. We do a little bit of diving around there, but then we head out to some of the more remote islands. So just back to the boat a little bit. She is powered by two Caterpillar 3406 turbo diesel engines. She does 400 horsepower per engine, which gives us a cruising speed of around about 8 or 9 knots, which is fine. We don't really have too far to go, and that gets us there nice and comfortably. Okay, we have 9 cabins on board, so we can take 18 passengers in comfort and a lot of space around the vessel. Not only do we have a very large, spacious sun deck, which is one of my favorite parts of the boat, half of it being undercover. The stern, towards the stern, is out in the sun with a hot tub in between, and lots of space just to spread out and enjoy your surface intervals. The rooms are comfortable, all down below deck, but all with a window in them. And we have a few different sizes of cabin. The photograph that you can see just here, that I'm indicating with my mouse there, is the master cabin, which is up in the bow, which is the fancy room. And then the cabins get a little bit smaller. But all 2 cabins have got all their own bathrooms and showers. We dive from the main vessel, which makes it very, very comfortable. The diving around the Turks and Caicos Islands is usually very calm. If we do have any wind or weather, we can normally go and hide behind an island, which makes it much calmer for us. There's very, very little current. And as you can see from the photographs there, we're straight off the back of the vessel, straight into the water, and straight to the dive site. So when you come back up, you'll come back up, you'll have a nice shower, drop your gear off, and then we'll welcome you back with a nice warm towel once you've had your shower. So just to give you our staff, we have 7 crew on board, including myself. We've got Robert, who is my husband and our engineer. Alex, who is my relief captain. Sarah, who's a dive guide. She's also one of our chefs on board. She's from New Zealand. We also have Dorian, who is our French chef. RJ, who is a stew, but also he is a night watchman for us as well. And then we also have Bryce, and Bryce is newly joined. We also have some other crew that come and work on board, which are from the Turks and Caicos Islands, but we're quite an international group. So a little bit about our destinations. Like I say, we start off in Providenciales. You can see from the little boat indicated just on the top of the island that looks somewhat like a horse kneeling on its front legs. We're in a marina usually called Turtle Cove Marina. It is on the North Shore. It is very, very protected, and that's why we like being in there. We head out from there. We dive along the northwest. Sometimes we do some diving along Grace Bay. We also dive along northwest point of Providenciales. And then we head down to West Caicos, which is uninhabited. We then head down to French Key, which is a very, very small island directly due south from Providenciales. And then that's for the 7-day charters. We then make our way back up and back into the marina for Friday. We offer 5 dives a day for 5 days, and then 2 dives on the last day. So 27 dives per week, all right? All good fun. But of course, you don't have to do 27 dives. The decision is yours. We do a couple of charters during the summer usually, where we have a 10-day charter, and those charters take us across to South Caicos and Grand Turk. So for a couple of charters every year, we actually do the whole of the Turks and Caicos Islands, not just the Caicos Islands, which are the ones we do during our 7-day trips. So that's our diving destinations. We don't only dive though. So during the winter months, we head out to the Silverbank. We operate out the Dominican Republic. And again, we're operating out the North Shore of the Dominican Republic, a marina called Ocean World Marina. And we head northeast 90 miles to the Silverbank. And this is where we snorkel with humpback whales. So we go out there, we moor up for the week, take the small tenders out to snorkel and swim with humpback whales, and then come back to that marina towards on a Friday at the end of the week. So those are the two kind of areas that we deal with. Providenciales or Turks and Caicos are not that far from the Dominican Republic. It normally takes us around about 18 hours to get down there before we start our whale watching charters. So not too far to go.
Amanda, let me go ahead and ask a quick question from one of the viewers. This is about the scuba diving. If we take a PADI online courses ahead of time, can we complete them on board? For example, nitrox or underwater photography?
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly we also are able to teach SSI on board as well. And if you haven't done the study beforehand, we've got all the books and the equipment that you need to do it right from scratch. But for sure, we can definitely do the checkout dives for the PADI open water and nitrox dives.
And we also had a question. Do we have the dates for the 10-day trips? I'm sure those are on the website. Do you happen to know them off the top of your head?
They're usually August, September.
August and September.
Yeah, and they're 10 days for the price of 7, typically.
More dives for the bang your butt.
Indeed, indeed. 40 dives for the week, so for the 10 days.
Wow.
Okay, so a little bit about our environment in Turks and Caicos. Lots of lovely things to see underwater, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. We typically have visibility of between 80 to 100 feet, so 25 to 30 meters. Great visibility most of the time. The water temperature is a very balmy 78 degrees to 84 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 26 degrees to 29 degrees Celsius. And we recommend a 3mm wetsuit. But everybody's different. I have people who are in 84 degrees wearing shorts and no t-shirt, and I also have people in that temperature wearing a 5mm. So you know how you react to your water temperature, so bring what you need to do. But a 3mm typically is fairly comfortable. The average depths that we do, it's a little bit deeper around Turks and Caicos. Underneath the boat, we don't have anywhere really shallow that you can hang out towards the end of the dive. You'll find your average depths are 35 to 50 feet or 10 to 15 meters, but that's where you end up. So they're all wall dives, and so we have great depth that we do not recommend you go to, but it's very beautiful and some very, very stunning walls to see. But those are the typical depths that you're going to find underneath the boat as you're coming back up.
And I will like to chime in real quick, Amanda. Larry Speaker and Andrew Ratchlin here at Aggressor chimed in for the 10-night charters. September 5th through the 15th and September 16th through the 26th. Cool. We also have one other question. They want to see how the internet is on both those two itineraries. Do you have much of a signal when you're out there?
No. We have signal when we are at the dock through the marina Wi-Fi. Once we get out, you do get limited internet if you have a cell phone with data on it. So but it is a bit hit and miss. So Northwest Point, Providenciales, you find, but around West Caicos, around French Key, you can get a little bit of data coming in, but it's not really enough to make a telephone call. And then as you get to South Caicos, the signal is good there, and once you get to Grand Turk, the signal's good there as well. So as long as you've got data, you can normally get something.
Okay, and one other question here. What's the diving experience? How's the diving experience different in different seasons?
So we have different critters that we see different times of the year. Certainly for the winter for us, it's all humpback whales. But for the diving, we see when we come in April and May time, you're going to see a lot of smaller stuff, a lot of juveniles, so juvenile angelfish. We see yellow-headed jawfish at the beginning of the season with eggs a lot more. We have juvenile spotted drums. So this is all kind of like April, May, June time. Now with the spotted drums, because they tend to stay in the same place, you can actually watch them grow up. So they get bigger as the year progresses. But you start seeing a lot of the fish kind of growing and maturing. And then as the water gets a little bit cooler, like into the winter, you're going to start seeing things like eagle rays, because they tend to go a little bit deeper here during the summer. And so we'll see those a little bit more during the winter season. But apart from that, it's fairly consistent what we see all year round. Just some of the photographs that you see here, which do not nearly cover the things that we see, but stingrays are very, very common. We have some dive sites where it's literally, you'll be seeing 10, 15 stingrays just all around you, just feeding during the morning as they're moving about. We get a lot of eels. We have a good population of turtles, mostly hawksbill, but occasionally we'll see green turtle as well. We have some really, really lovely grouper, Nassau grouper in particular. We see tiger groupers as well, yellowfin grouper too. And then there's lots of kind of small schools of fish, like the snappers that you see there. We see Creole wrasse, the Atlantic spadefish quite a lot. So different dive sites, we see different fish in different places. So it's always good to visit the different areas and see the different fish that we can see. But we've typically got an enormous number of jacks and snappers underneath the boat, and quite often a very, very large barracuda that was just hanging out amongst them all. So waiting to see what we can get. So we don't just have fish, we also have our crustaceans, which is one of my favourites. You've got your typical Caribbean spiny lobsters that we see around. There are some enormous channel clinging crab here. People come back on the night dive just amazed, where their front claw will be the entire size of their hand and arm. So we have some very, very big crustaceans here, of all sizes as well. We get big crabs, but we get little ones as well, from just very, very tiny, the gaudy clown crabs there. The picture on just on the bottom corner here looks a lot bigger than he actually is. They're only about this big. So we get slipper lobsters, different types of lobsters as well. You see also there's a red-banded lobster there too. So lots of different crustaceans. And then we've got lots of other different mollusks, octopus, we get squid as well. There's a lot of conch around, we see from the milk conch, queen conch. We get lots of flamingo tongues everywhere, but the ones that we're always looking out for are the stripy one, which you can see in the bottom corner there, which are our fingerprint siphomer. And again, octopus of all varieties. You see an octopus on most night dives. The ones that you can see, they've got a reef octopus there. The one that is in the chain is actually on our handbar chain and is literally just about a centimetre or two across. So it's very, very small.
Wow.
So we also have some, I like to say they're always around. We don't see them that regularly, but they're enough for us to say that we get them here. So you have on the bottom there the short-nosed batfish. Sorry, I know some people who've been to the Pacific will say that a batfish looks like one of our Atlantic spadefish, but here in the Atlantic, they look like somebody has squashed them on the ground. So a bottom-dwelling fish, great. We've had a couple hanging out together at a couple of dive sites here. Again, not something we see all the time, but enough for me to say that they're around. We get frogfish here occasionally, flying gurnards. And the shark that you see there, although it's not a great photograph, is actually a hammerhead. And I would like to say we would see maybe a hammerhead maybe once a month. So again, not regularly, but enough for us to know that they're around and probably watching us. So.
All right, we got some questions coming in. So are any of the dive sites in marine protected areas?
Most of the dive sites are in marine protected areas, yes. We have Department of Environment and Coastal Resources, and it is very well policed as well. So we have the radar station on the island that is obviously keeping an eye out for people around, and also, as well as the operators kind of locally policing it. There is a good presence from the DECR to help keep that preserved.
We have one comment saying that they think Turks and Caicos has the friendliest groupers they've ever seen. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. Yes, they come up very, very close to you, especially the Nassau groupers. The Nassau groupers are awesome. So I'm just going to talk a little bit now about some of our signature dives. We've got a few different things down here. One of those you may have seen before, it's probably our shallowest dive site, and it's actually based out in just off of Providenciales, and it is the dome. There's a large metal dome shape structure. You can actually swim through it. It used to be part of a game show back in the late 80s called, I think it's pronounced Pango Pango, but it's spelled Pago Pago, P-A-G-O, P-A-G-O. Was supposed to be set in the Pacific, but they decided that Turks and Caicos would be a suitable place for it to be set. So it didn't last its first season. The reason for that, you're going to have to come visit us and we'll tell you the whole story. But it's left us a really, really nice structure with lots of fish inside it. It's covered with tiny blennies. Lots of fish just use it for protection. There's a turtle that sleeps under it at night. So it's a really, really good dive. And it's only in about 33 feet of water. So it's only in about 10 meters. So one of our shallowest dives. There is a wall there as well. So you can actually enjoy the wall and then come and engine dive in the shallow there at the dome. We also have a 300-year-old anchor, or approximately 300-year-old anchor, that is wedged into a swim through. It's out of West Caicos. It's called Spanish anchor because we believe it is a Spanish anchor. It's very, very encrusted. Sometimes people will swim by it and not even realize that they have swum past it. We usually get a photograph of them though, so we can then point it out and say, yes, you did go past the anchor. So that's two of our sites that we actually kind of have structures for. In addition to that, we do like to, during our night dives, we like to not only see what comes out at night, but we also like to do something that we call black light diving or fluorescent diving. So this is when we take a black light in. The color of the light is blue. You put a yellow mask on top of your mask and just see everything that glows underwater. So we do it as a guided dive. So we do small groups. We'll do a presentation about it early on in the week. And then invite people to sign up for it. It's complimentary, small groups, maybe 2 or 3, and you'll be led by an instructor who will take you in and show you everything that glows in the dark. So not only do all the corals come out amazing colors, but if we do see a frogfish, that looks great. Some of the nudibranchs look really good. You actually see little critters hanging out in some of the brain corals that you wouldn't even have seen under the regular light. And on the barrel sponges, they're normally covered by trypania, which are very, very tiny nudibranchs, which you definitely cannot see under white light. And then you go into the sand and you get baby scorpion fish and loads of other little fish that just you would never ever know that were there unless you take the black light in with the screen. So it's great fun. So our other signature adventures, we do have a very, very healthy population of sharks here in Turks and Caicos. We don't have a wide selection of them. It's typically the reef sharks, which you can see here, and also nurse sharks. But the one thing about the sharks here is they're very comfortable around people. So they are very happy to come in very close. They typically pull up to, as we pull up to a mooring, we'll find that they're hanging out just beneath the boat. As we ascend, they'll be just doing their little semicircles or figure 8 just underneath the boat. They keep coming back round underneath the boat. And if you just want to hang out with the shark coming in very close, then you can do that quite easily. They just come on past you and then just at the last minute, they'll just shoot by. Okay, we see them at all the areas that we dive in the Caicos Islands. We don't see quite so many out in South Caicos, don't see quite so many in Grand Turk. But certainly around Providenciales, certainly around West Caicos and French Key, we have some really lovely sharks, all sizes, and very, very much fun to be with. The other nice thing about them is as you come up to the hang bar at the end of your dive to do your safety stop, they often come up with you. So the show doesn't end at the end of the dive. They'll come and hang out with you with all the jacks around underneath the boat too. So that always makes for fun. We occasionally see a lemon shark. We occasionally see a hammerhead, as I said earlier on. There are some other sharks around. We know in some of the marinas there's bull sharks, but we typically don't see them out on dives. These are, it's just our friends, the reef sharks. So in addition to that, we also have our friendly population of nurse sharks. Now during June and July, just off of French Quay, there is an area where nurse sharks mate. So if you happen to get there at the time when they're there, you possibly in very shallow water will just see them just all over the place. It's normally early in the morning. It's not always easy to predict, or that they'll definitely be there. We've taken drones up before and discovered there's maybe just one or two. So with that in mind, you know, we don't tend to see that, but it does mean there's a very, very healthy population out at French Quay of nurse sharks. Now, during the day, they're just sat with their heads stuck underneath the rock, just sleeping. Nurse sharks have the ability to pump water over their gills. So with that in mind, they just lay there and sleep. Now, at night, a completely different story. And this is our signature dive. We jump in the water. Out at French Quay, we do not leave the lights from underneath the boat. So we've got two large underwater lights that shine straight down, make the boat very easy to see as far as night diving is concerned. But it also brings the nurse sharks in to kind of hang out and see if they can feed. So you can be taking a photograph of something else, and you'll find one will like just lay over your feet. They'll try and swim underneath you. They swim all around you. And we often have up to 15 nurse sharks. And once they get everything excited, then the reef sharks start coming in. We have Cabera snapper that start coming in, and the blackjacks as well. So it makes for a very, very exciting dive, all in one spot. We barely even move. So you can leave, you can go and head out and check out the wall maybe, but typically there'll be a couple of nurse sharks that will come with you. So you can feel that you're being supervised the whole way by the nurse sharks. And they're all sizes, from ones that are just, you know, a foot long, all the way up to kind of like 8-10 foot nurse sharks. So.
All right, Amanda, we got a quick question here.
Sure.
From a friend of yours that was on one of your trips, Tamara Lyon. Hope I said that right. She wants to say, it's great to see you and thanks for all your photography help. She wants to ask you about the reefs post 2017 hurricane. How is all that looking?
So the most damage to the reef that we had after Irma came through was to French Quay. And there was a lot of damage, but there is definitely some regrowth. The wildlife is still there, and the reef is coming back. So this brings us on to our winter adventures. So I said a little bit earlier on, we talk about, I was talking about us operating out of the Dominican Republic from Puerto Plata, on the north shore of the Dominican Republic. We head out there from the end of January to the beginning of April, because that is the time when North Atlantic humpback whales head out to the Silver Bank and the surrounding banks, which is a marine mammal park, and they're there to either to mate, or for those females that mated the year before, the following year they come down and they actually either give birth en route or whilst they're in the bank. So we see a lot of adult action as they are preparing to mate. So you'll have males that will be chasing females to try and prove that they're the strongest. And in doing that, a lot of posturing, a lot of breaching, peck slapping, tail slapping, all at high speed, often in some quite wind as well. So it's quite a show. Sometimes we will struggle to keep up with them in the chase boat. And then we also see mothers with their calves, and the mother has to teach the calf everything it needs to know to be a well-developed humpback whale. So you'll see them teaching them to breach, teaching them to spy hop, as one of those photographs shows you there. And again, teaching the peck slapping, teaching tail lobbing, everything it needs to know. The calves actually learn from seeing and observing any other whale. It's mostly the mom, but sometimes you'll have an escort that will start acting and posturing and would start breaching, and the calf will start copying that whale as well. So they tend to learn from everything they see. So you'll see some of the topside encounters that we have here, and then the most special are the in-water encounters. So seeing that real tactile relationship between mother and calf. You're seeing the behavior of the female. She's kind of getting ready to mate. She can just, it gets into kind of a dancing routine with some of the males. And sometimes you'll have a singer. You'll have one of the males will be down there. They'll be singing for about 15 minutes at a time, coming up to breathe, then heading back down again. And if you're actually in the water over that humpback whilst it's singing, it vibrates through your core. You can actually feel it. Sometimes you can hear the singing above the water. It's absolutely amazing. So, like I said earlier, we head out to the Silverbank on a Saturday night. We get there Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. We take the chase boats out. We have two, so we split the group onto the two tenders, and then we spend the rest of the afternoon looking for and experiencing all the different types of encounters that we have, be they topside, which can be very exciting, or in the water. Highly recommend it. I can guarantee if anybody has ever been in the water and has had a humpback swim past them and look you in the eye, then you will absolutely guarantee you're the only person that is in the water at that time. It's very, very special.
Here's one. So they wanted a little bit of clarification. So about getting in the water with the humpbacks. So they're asking if it's scuba. You want to clarify?
It's all snorkeling. Yep, it's just a snorkel trip. So we don't dive at all during our whale charters. That's pictures. We're typically in the water with the whale that is resting. So when they've taken the moment to pause, to sleep, just to rest, and they're staying in one position, that's when we slide into the water, and we just hang out and wait for them to come up to the surface to breathe.
Okay. Do you still do a repositioning trip from Provo to Grand Turk prior to the whale watching season?
No, we don't. What we do is prior to and after, we do a 6-day dive charter. Okay, so the dive charter would people would normally depart on a Saturday, would depart on a Friday, and then we reposition the boat directly down to Puerto Plata from Providenciales, and the reverse coming back. So the charter on the way back, the first dive charter, starts on a Sunday and goes through to the Saturday.
Are there any regulations about approaching distance to the whales?
Yes, we have some very strict regulations, and we adhere to all of them. So it depends on the encounter, and those regulations have been implemented by the operators in the Silverbank, and then have been adopted by the government, the Medio Ambiente, for the Dominican Republic.
Okay, and then are there any reefs on the whale trip to do snorkeling as well?
With the Silverbank itself has areas where the comes up to very, very shallow. But I think because of the position of it being out in the Atlantic, some of the weather conditions that it sees there, a lot of that coral is broken. So there are a few fish out there. There's not very many, few reef fish, but typically it's the whales out there. You'll see a very occasional whale, but it's shark. But it's there's no predators out there, so that makes it a nice place for the whales to be.
Okay, and one gentleman here, I don't know if he's asking for the Turks itinerary or the Dominican itinerary, but asks, what time do you normally leave and come back to the harbor?
So if we are doing the dive itinerary, we typically would leave the marina, it may be Saturday evening, possibly Sunday morning, and we're typically back at the marina around about lunchtime. So, and that depends on the tide, because we are very tide restricted here. But it's usually between 11 in the morning up to probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So And then if you're talking about whale charters, then we depart at midnight, typically on Saturday night, and we get back to the marina on a Friday, having travelled back from the Silverbank all day Friday. We get in around about 4 o'clock.
Okay, and on the dive trips, are French Key, and Grand Turk visited on every dive charter?
The French Key, it depends on the weather, but for most parts we do get out there. There's normally a small window during the week when we can nip down there, even if it's only just for the day or for an afternoon. But Grand Turk we only do when we're doing the 10-day charters.
Okay, I think that's mostly what we got so far as far as questions go.
Okay, so that was going to be my my next thing. Does anybody have any questions?
We have one just come in. Are you able to accommodate CCR divers?
CCR.
Let me ask him what that is.
Oh,
Dave, can you clarify CCR, Dave?
Closed circuit rebreathers.
Okay. Rebreather.
And we cannot, no.
Okay, no. Do we have any questions, anyone? Let's give a few more seconds here, Amanda. Great job in the presentation, though.
Thank you.
And she was nervous, guys. Look at her. Total pro. Can you tell us a little bit about your the CRS program that you guys have been doing on the Turks and Caicos Aggressor?
Yes, we have taken the opportunity to pretty much take everything apart, to clean it, put it back together again. We have detailed all the cabins. We have detailed all the air conditioning areas. We more than usual detailed the galley. And just the whole of the boat. We've also taken the opportunity to do some of the jobs that we don't get the opportunity to do if we have guests on board in between charters. So there's quite an impressive amount of painting being done. And also we're looking at ways that we can improve what we do and maybe bring some new ideas onto the boat as well. So.
Okay, great. What's the common water temp in Dominican for the snorkel?
It's around about 78 degrees. Because it's I know it's people think oh yeah it's in the Caribbean, but it is still the winter, and it's not Caribbean, it's the Atlantic, but it's winter and it does get cooler.
Okay. Let's see. A lot of people chiming in saying thank you. You've done a great job. We're ready to dive with you. I had about 30 comments come in all at once, so I'm trying to run through them real quick, and they keep coming. Tell us about the 5 dives a day on the Turks trip, the charters. About what time do you do those 5?
Okay, so it depends whether it's the winter or the summer. But during the summer months, we dive at we'll have breakfast. We dive, come back, have a snack. We dive again at 11. Come back and have lunch. You dive at 2. Come back and have a snack. You dive then again at 5. Come back and have supper, and then we dive at 8 o'clock in the evening. If you do the winter schedule, we shift it all a little bit earlier. So we typically dive at 7 in the morning and have breakfast when we, or second breakfast, hot breakfast when we come back. And that just as that allows us to get 4 full day dives in, and then the night dive is usually before dinner. So it's a little bit different during the winter season.
One lady here, or it might have been man. Lost it. Here we go. Lady, what's your favorite dive site in Turks?
It's a dive site called Elephant Ear Canyon. I really enjoy very small stuff. There is a lot of seagrass. It's the dive site which I mentioned earlier that has a lot of the stingrays there. But we see lots of like head shield slugs. We see lots of pipe horses, pipe fish. You just have to take it very slowly. If you're not into very small stuff, it probably wouldn't float your boat. But for me, it's my absolute favorite dive site.
Here's Here's a great question. Tell me a little bit about the food. I was on one Aggressor trip and it was in Kona and the food was fabulous.
We have Dorian, who is French. The food here is amazing. We always recommend that you do not plan on losing any weight, because what with the food every day and the snacks, we do a continental breakfast to begin with, followed by hot breakfast, which is eggs cooked to order. There's always a breakfast meat as well. There's all the breads. Dorian makes his own bread as well. So throughout the day, he'll be serving homemade bread, or boat-made bread, should I say. In addition to that, at lunchtime, we serve a homemade soup every day. And then it's a variety of things like lasagnas, and it tends to be a different national theme every day. So maybe some Mexican, maybe some French. So there's lots of different influences. And then the evening meal is a 3-course served meal. So we get everyone to come in, relax, sit down. If they're not doing the night dive during the summer, we let them have a glass of wine. And then it's 3 courses, usually a salad to start, with the main course. Again, typically has an international theme, with some local flair as well, because Dorian lives in Mexico, so he has some Caribbean influence too, and then a very delightful dessert. Now he is the pastry chef, so the desserts are special.
Colin T said, Chef Dorian is amazing. I stole his recipe for seafood stew at the end of our trip.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
We got a question here on elkhorn and staghorn coral. How often do you see it there?
We do not see it very often. There are a couple of areas that we do. One of the things, however, that the Turks and Caicos Reef Fund are doing is they are actually growing it. So you will find, as you go to a couple of dive sites at Northwest Point, we tend to go a little bit away from the dive site. The Dome is one of them, actually, that I was talking about. And if you go there, you'll see some coral ladders, one of which is sponsored by Aggressor, and they are quite successfully growing some of those corals there. Then for those to be planted on in different places on some of the reef balls that you get at different areas around the islands.
Okay. Sarah wants to ask, can you accommodate teenagers?
Yes, we can.
Is there a minimum age to have on the boat?
Not teenage years. I think it might be
Younger children.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Unless it's a family week.
Right. That's right. Family weeks are something that you can check out if you do have younger children.
Yeah.
And Amanda, that about wraps it up. I think we had about 100 and maybe 50 at one point here. I'm glad you weren't hearing my beeping because it was nonstop. But thanks, everybody. We're glad you guys come by. Just to give you a quick rundown of our future presentations, we have Doug Neese from SSI will be here on May 1st doing one of these presentations. We then have Mike Haber and Mike Miskleski from Mike and Mike photographers. They're really great and always funny. On Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. Richard Weiss from Born to Explore will be with us on May 7th. Survivor Man Les Stroud will be with us May 12th. And Wayne Brown, CEO, and Philippines new owner Aaron Lerman will be talking about the new Philippines Aggressor on May 14th. All these presentations will start at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, that's it, everybody. So thanks for coming, and stay healthy and stay safe out there. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye. Good job, Amanda. Hey, Ash.
That was great.
Good. How the kids doing? Hey, Cash, what you doing, buddy?
Say hey, Amanda. Say hey, Captain Amanda.
Hey, buddy.
Mama, I shy.
You're shy? Which is, when have you ever been shy?
Me too.
That was awesome, Amanda. You did so good.
Thank you. My
Yeah.
heart's got-
Oh, no. You sounded cool as a cucumber, and it was really good. Especially for our very first one.
Yeah. All right, so Amanda, I'm gonna go ahead and end this this meeting. I'm gonna send you a separate link so you and I can do a quick wrap up.
Okay.
Looks like we still have 20 folks or so in here, and yeah, great job. I'll send you a link here in just a second through email.
Thanks.
All right, bye bye, everybody.